Have master's degrees in plumbing, I'm sure you'll get a good answer there. And one of them came up with the idea that it was the Feast of Our Lady of Sorrows, and she was probably crying for Peter because he's such an idiot. And did it taste like tears, like salt? I said, what is wrong with me? It never even occurred to me to get down on all fours and lick the carpet. Our daughter had been to Medjugorje a couple years ago before that with Margie, and she had an idea. She said, well, Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. I said, that's not working for me either, and thanks for your plumbing experience. So not long after that, I went on my annual golf trip to Tucson with 7 other buddies. 2 of them are devout Catholics, and they go to Mass unfailingly. Since we play golf Sunday morning, they go to the Saturday Vigil and announce to everybody that they're going if anybody wants to join them. And at that time, we're either hard of hearing or sorting our sock drawers or something. We came back from that trip. Margie was waiting for me with the most horrible news I could ever imagine. She said she had booked a trip for us to some place called Medjugorje. And I knew she'd been there 2 years before. I said, what do you want to go there again for? I said, I'm not going. There's nothing there for me. It'd be a total waste of time. She said, this guy said she coaxed me. That's not quite how it happened. The blackmail started coming. She said, you go on your trips with your golf buddies. You do things on your own. We don't do enough things together. She said, besides, you've never been to Europe. I said, yes, I have. I spent 8 days golfing in Scotland and Ireland. And golfing at St. Andrews in Scotland is as close to heaven as I could ever want to be. Well, you men in the audience know that anytime you think you've had the last word in an argument, it's really just the first word in the next argument. So I gave in. I said, okay, we'll go. The big day finally came. We drove to O'Hare, and Guy Murphy is there assembling 100 of his pilgrims. And everybody's there with more time than they needed, so Guy gets this beautiful idea. He said, we can have Mass. I looked at Margie and said, you got to be kidding me. I said, we came to the airport to go to Mass? She elbowed me in the ribs. I said, look, it says right here in my Creaster contract, I don't have to do these extracurricular activities. So we had Mass, and after that he had more good news for us. He said, there's still time, we can pray the rosary. I never really heard the words to the rosary because Margie always prayed it silently so she wouldn't bother me in any way. And for all I knew, the end of a Hail Mary was, how does your garden grow? And after hearing all those Hail Marys, all I wanted to do was hail a cab and go back home. Well, we flew to Detroit, picked up another priest and some more pilgrims. We arrived in Rome with 120 people, including 5 priests, 1 brother, and 1 lay Dominican named Guy Murphy. And I had decided already that Guy Murphy was not at the top of my list of friends. And then I needed to distance myself as far as possible from this guy. So I saw him getting on one of the 3 buses. There were 40 people on each bus. And I said, Margie, let's go over to this one. So he shows a different bus. And just as we got settled about the 5th row back, much to my horror, who appears on the bus but Guy Murphy? He was just doing a head count on the other bus. And sure enough, he starts in with his prayers. He's got greeting prayers, introductory prayers, morning prayers, afternoon prayers, prayers to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, St. Michael the Archangel. It never ends. And when he's done, he can invoke the names of more saints than I know professional golfers. And then, of course, they start praying the rosary. And there's some cousin of Imelda Marcos who's about 3 pews behind me. And she's wailing away, and she's 3 syllables behind everybody else. So I'm in this church on wheels, getting blasted by the rosary in stereo. And at that point, I said my first prayer. I said, "Dear God, I'll do anything if you just get me off of this bus." Now, there's two women sitting right across the aisle from me, and they're in their dark clothes, and they've got their books, and they know every word to every one of Guy Murphy's prayers, looking rather serious, and I can tell what they must be thinking of me, sitting there with this anguished look on my face and my Tom Clancy novel. But I couldn't have been more wrong. We started talking and started enjoying each other's company, saw all the different sites together, and really started to enjoy them and their conversation. They turned out to be two of the funniest people I ever met in my life. One of them had apparently gone through a conversion sometime before in Medjugorje. And we arrived at San Giovanni Rotondo, where Padre Pio was. And this lady and I were standing outside the bookstore while Margie and the other one were shopping. And I finally asked her to tell me exactly what happened to her. I wanted to hear her story. So I got a one-on-one, face-to-face conversion story of this woman who underwent this miraculous physical healing as well as a spiritual healing. And of course, the Blessed Mother choreographed it, so it was Char Vance and Janie Harney. And our next stop was, that was very powerful when you hear something like that for the first time, and it was totally believable. So it started the wheels turning. Our next stop was at Monte Cassino, where St. Benedict was, and that's just an awesome place. So we finally crossed the Adriatic, took the long bus ride to Medjugorje. And Margie had told me her previous trip about the miracle of the sun. You can stare at the sun and see it. And I said, you're a nurse, for goodness sakes. You have to know you can't be looking at the sun, and it's going to burn your retinas and you'll go blind. I said I was really careless, and I might have used the word stupid. So, of course, the first thing I did as I got off the bus sure enough, I could see the sun. It wasn't blinding, didn't hurt my eyes at all, but I was convinced I shouldn't look at it too long. And with my science background, I said it must be something unique to the atmospheric conditions in this part of the country that allows this phenomenon to happen. Put it out of my mind. So we met our guide, Yozo, and he took us to the pension Medjugorje. That was the place where we were staying, and our hosts greeted us. Next morning, Yozo picked us up. We went to Mass at St. James Church. And then we went to Apparition Hill. And that's the place where the Blessed Mother appeared to the visionaries. And they've made a station at 6 different places. As you go up the hill, there's a cross at each place. So you stop there and pray the rosary. We prayed the rosary in English and Spanish and Italian and Polish and Croatian and every language you can think of. We're about up to the 4th station. I said my second prayer. Dear God, please get me up to the top of this hill so we can be done with these rosaries. We got up there, and Yozo asked each of us to just find a place to sit down, relax for a while, enjoy the scenery, and meditate, whatever. He said, blew my socks off, I'm going to my own private place to pray. I looked at Margie and said, what have we been doing for the past 3 hours, coming up this hill? But with some envy, I had to think, what must it be like to have faith like that? We went back down the hill. We stopped at the final station, praying the rosary all the way again. And as Margie was counting her beads, I was looking at the rocks, counting how many millions of footsteps it must have taken to polish those stones. And we went to this little plaza in front of a store, and Margie became frantic. She said, where's Eloise? Eloise was our friend who wasn't anywhere to be found. Margie was totally convinced that Eloise was still up on Apparition